Welcome to another deck review. I am actually going to be reviewing the Double Cunning Boba list. This list was originally, I modified it a bit to my own liking, but I played Poem in a tournament online, and he beat me with it. I was playing my Cunning Sabine list. He was playing the 30 life base, which just got me really intrigued in this deck, and I decided to put my own spin on it, and I'm going to talk about how I play it. I played it in the league, and then I played a couple games against top decks, and I have won against them. I think specifically due to how my list is created, I have certain matchups that if I draw certain cards, I have a higher chance of winning, which I'll talk through in this list. So this is a really fun deck because you get to play double yellow, and this deck really utilizes events to manipulate Boba's leader ability. So Boba's leader ability says when an enemy unit leaves play, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, ready a resource. And so essentially any event that costs 1 is essentially free if it removes something. And most events only cost -1 because most of the events actually remove units in this deck. And so that allows you to basically reduce the cost of everything you're playing, which is really strong. So I'm gonna go through each drop here. And the first one is Greedo. Greedo is a great card. I play this in a lot of different decks. I think just a 3/1 for 1 is just crazy aggressive, right? And honestly, this Boba deck has the ability to play aggressive or play mid-range tempo. And if you can play a Greedo and the next one drop that I'm gonna show on turn 1, you can have 5 power on turn 1, which is the same aggression level as like a top tier Sabine aggro deck can do. And so you can actually keep pace with Sabine. In fact, beat Sabine if you have the right opening hand. Very, very aggressive. It has the potential to 2 for 1. So when defeated, you may discard a card from your deck. If it's not a unit, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. And so a lot of times, you know, you can attack into a 3/3. Greedo can trade with that 3/3, and then his ability, if you get an event off the top, which you have a lot of events in the deck, so it's an event-heavy deck, you can actually remove a 2-drop. Or 2 toughness, or something that has damage on it already and you can finish it off. It's a very strong card. And it's good late game because a lot of times you're able to untap 1 with Boba. So if you tap out all of your resources for an effect, and you know maybe your Boba is on the leader side, it's not a unit anymore. And a lot of times you can play a 5-drop, a 6-drop, untap something after something dies, and then play Greedo. And it just allows you to keep dumping cards and keep pace with an aggro deck. I think it's very strong. So it's got good late game potential as well as like a card you can fit in with a top end. Next is the TIE LN Fighter. Not gonna say much about this other than it's a space unit. It's a 2/1. You can play it with Greedo. You can do a lot of stuff with this. If you draw 2 of these in your opener and you can play both of them, that's just a very strong opener. If your opponent doesn't have space, you're probably going to attack in for 8, maybe 10 damage before both of those LN fighters get removed. Very, very strong. Nothing else much needs to be said about that. Next is Shoot First. This card is very, very interesting because it can cost nothing. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's say I play my TIE LN fighter and my opponent plays a 3 toughness space unit and I have the initiative. On the next turn 2, I can play Shoot First, attack in with my TIE LN fighter and kill their space unit, and then immediately use Boba's leader ability to untap a resource. And so this can cost 0, and then I can play a 3-drop. So it can cost nothing. It allows you to trade up, right? It gives your guy first strike. So attack with the unit, it gets +1/+0, and it deals damage before the defender. So that's first strike in Magic the Gathering. It can also serve as a small pump. You can play this just for the +1 toughness and attack a base. And so it can sometimes get you that last bit of damage late game. You know, let's say they have 4 life and you have a Greedo. You can pump your Greedo to a 4/1 and attack it and kill base. And that seems really strong. So moving on to 2-drops here. Crafty Smuggler, just an amazing card. It's a 2/2. It can trade up in combat because it comes out shielded. So if they play a 2/2 or something like that, there's not many cards that counter this card early game. So this card is quite good. Very, very good. And it's Cunning, so keep in mind that Cunning is important because of the next card I'm going to show is Cartel Spacer. It's a 2/3 in space, so it's pretty good early drop. It can get in for a lot of damage. When played, if you control another Cunning unit, exhaust an enemy unit that costs 4 or less. So a lot of times you play this on turn 2, right? If you play a Crafty Smuggler or you play a Greedo and you have the initiative, you can play Cartel Spacer and tap down your opponent's turn 1 play, and then you can prevent them from doing damage to you, and then you're building your board and getting more aggressive as you move on. So it's a very tempo play, very strong card. Next is Surprise Strike. I mean, this card's insane. This card is played in a Sabine list that I play. It pushes in for a lot of damage. It allows you to kill, use a smaller unit to kill a very important unit on your opponent's side. And if you do that, it ends up only costing 1 because Boba can untap that resource. So very, very good. This card is insane. It also pairs well with Cunning, which is the name of not only an aspect, it's the name of a card in this set. And so this card can be very strong. You can get in for a lot of damage right now, and I'm going to talk through that in a little bit. No Good to Me Dead. I love this card. Exhaust a unit, the unit can't ready. So really good to play on units that you really want, you can't remove with a bounce unit. So this is good to play on leaders. So if your opponent plays a leader, you can play No Good to Me Dead, shut down their leader for 2 turns. So it's done for that turn and it's done for the next turn. This is very good against Sabine. It's good against Iden. It's good against Boba. It's a very, very good card. It's good against any leader. And whenever you have an event that can hit a leader, because a lot of events say target non-leader unit, this is a those cards are pretty good. So I really like this card because of that single fact. Also, it's Han Solo and it's a Boba deck, so the flavor win is 10 out of 10. Next is Viper Probe Droid. Definitely not a great card. I know some people would disagree. I think that if the next set comes out and this deck is still a top deck, I think why it'll be a top deck is because this card is replaced. It's a 3/2, it's good damage, and you get to look at your opponent's hand. So it's not a bad card, but what's unfortunate is it doesn't work with Cartel Spacer, which is really unfortunate because it's not a Cunning unit. And you want to be able to play a Cunning unit turn 1 and then Cartel Spacer turn 2 if possible. You can't always do that, but it's nice to have that option open to you. And this card kind of shuts down that option. So moving on to 3-drops here, Boba Fett, probably the best 3-drop on the ground in the game. It's a 3/5 for 3. That's a beefy boy. And he can one-shot most units in the game if they're tapped. This is very, 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 very interesting though. Keep this in mind. Most people don't know this about Boba. So let's read his card text. On attack, if this unit is attacking an exhausted unit that didn't enter play this round, deal 3 damage to the defender. Now this is really bizarre. So leaders, when they become units, technically your leader is in play from the beginning of the game. And so when your leader turns into a unit, it technically didn't enter play this turn. It already was in play for the whole game. And so Boba can attack into Leia, to Sabine, which have 5 and 6 toughness, and he can actually kill them if they're tapped. And so that is crazy. So you can trade your 3-drop for most of the leaders in the game. Let me say that again. Boba Fett can attack into most of the leaders and kill them in one shot if they are exhausted the turn they come out. Because of how the leader mechanic works, they technically have been in play. And so Boba, if you play your leader, he can attack into it that turn, and if it's exhausted, he can deal up to 6 damage, maybe even 7 damage with a shoot first. And so Boba Fett is essentially the leader killer. It's very on flavor, right? He's a bounty hunter, but it's insane. It's a great tempo card. It can trade up into late game stuff. Maybe they have a 6/6 and they attack with it. You can attack Boba and trade it. Very, very good. The next card I'm going to show here is Bodhi Rook. I'm playing 3 copies of this mainly for one reason. This card is good against Iden and good against Boba. The reason why it's good is that those decks are, I would say that those decks are better than this deck because of a few cards. One card being Overwhelming Barrage. That card is just so broken. It gives +2/+2 to a unit for 5 resources, and then that unit can disperse its damage across any number of units. All right, not sure what happened there, but I believe my audio cut out, so I had to re-record the last 25% of this. So as I left off, Bodhi Rook can take out cards like Overwhelming Barrage, any problematic events that are sort of really good counters against this deck. This card can suss those out very, very early. And it's very similar to a card like Duress from Magic the Gathering, where you can actually just pick out a card you don't like. And what's good about this card is it's giving you a unit and it's acting as a removal spell from the hand, which is very, very strong. So moving on here, Swoop Racer, again, it's a 4/3 with for 3. You can play it on turn 2. I think this is actually an underrated card right now. We do have a limited card pool, so cards like this are kind of bizarre where they have no effect, but they're actually quite good because you can pivot into aggro. If it's a bad card in the matchup you're in, you can just resource it. But I'm only playing 2 copies of it, and it trades into some really high-end stuff, which I really, really like. For example, you can surprise strike this and kill an enemy Boba, and so you don't have to put any damage on your Boba, and that is actually quite a relevant play. Next is a 7th Fleet Defender. I don't really like this card either as much. It's good because it's shielded. It can take out a problematic space unit and then stay alive. That's very good, but it is not aggressive. It's more of a control card because it is shielded. I do like playing this on turn 2 if I can, just so that I know I'm in space and I know I'm in the ground. But Boba is usually going to be heavier on the ground, and so it's good to have those space units. Still relevant. Lastly is Waylay. This card is nuts. It can 2-for-1 your opponent. So there's lots of cards like Wing Leader that give 2 experience tokens, or upgrades or lightsabers and things like that in the game. And this can just 2-for-1 your opponent. It's a very good tempo play, and you can play it on turn 2. And so Wing Leader can come out on turn 2, and then Waylay can come out on turn 2. So it's quite strong. Going on to the 4-drops here, Gamorrean Guards. It's just an aggro beefy unit. It's got Sentinel. I play 2 copies of it. It almost always has Sentinel. It's just a really good card, and it can also be aggressive when you don't need it to be. It can, you can surprise strike this and get it in for 7. Feels really, really strong. It trades with K2. It trades with other really, really important units. If Boba Fett attacks into this, you trade, especially if it's untapped, the unit Boba Fett. So it's just a really good card. 4 toughness is a good breakpoint. This is the best event in the game. It's the reason why you play this deck, honestly. Cunning, choose 2 in any order, return a non-leader unit with 4 or less power to its owner's hand, or give a unit +4 power for this phase, exhaust up to 2 units, or an opponent discards a card at random from their hand, and you get to choose 2 in any order. So I believe you can do one and then do the other. So sometimes you can bounce something and then get them to discard it, and so you can kind of do this sort of dance. It's by far the best 4-cost event in the game. I don't think there's really a debate about that. It can, if you pick exhaust 2 units, bounce a unit, that means you've taken care of 3 units in 1 turn. Very, very strong. That +4 attack means you can finish games out of nowhere. I have been defeated by this deck, with 15 life left. And all of a sudden, by the end of that turn, I am gone. I'm dead. And then with Boba, this can end up costing 3, because if you bounce a unit and do something else, the first mode is bounce a unit 4 or less. If you do that and something else, Boba's effect comes into play, the leader effect, and you get to untap 1 resource. So it's very, very good because it shuts down aggro. It allows you to be a glass cannon and win the game out of nowhere. It combos with Bodhi, because if you play Bodhi and then you play this, that's 2 cards you've removed from your opponent's hand. And if you're able to ruin your opponent's hand and put them into RNG top deck mode, sometimes that's the game. Sometimes they're drawing early units because you've removed everything good from their hand. It's a very, very flexible card. Anything that lets you pick multiple modes and is situational is going to be amazing. And this card happens to be the best event. So I think if this card didn't exist, you would not play this deck. It's that good that it just pushes the deck into this color. Moving to 5-drops here, Bosk. He's got ambush removal. That's always very good. This is in a very event-heavy deck, and so it's just you're able to trigger for that 2 damage a lot. And then in the mirror, it's very good because you can be aggro with Bosk and remove something, and then you can then use those events to finish things up. Next is Cantina Bouncer. I really like this card. It's also a double Cunning card. It's basically a Waylay plus on a 3/5 body for 2 more. Not much needs to be said that hasn't been said already. Very, very good. All right, having some problems today, but Syndicate Lackeys is a really good card because it's a 5/4 ambush. Because this deck is not playing energy conversion lab as its base, so you get that free ambush, you need to have units that have ambush on it. And Syndicate Lackeys does have that. It's a 5/4. It's a big, beefy unit that it can kill most leaders. It can kill Sabine the moment it comes out, which is really strong. Of course, it's going to come out the turn after Sabine is out, but still, it's very, very strong. If you have the initiative, you can play this, kill Sabine, and you have a 5/4 holding, sitting back, which is really good. It can also just take out other large problematic units in the game. And if you don't like it, you can just resource it. But this deck does struggle against the other mid-range decks, so it needs to have mid to end game potential. And we do that with Fett's Fire Spray. Possibly the best single card in the game right now because of Boba, and it automatically readies is crazy. Like, this can attack a space unit, it can attack face and get in the final damage. It's a finisher. It's arguably the best card in the game right now, if not like next to Falcon, Overwhelming Barrage, Cunning. It's up there, right? So this deck has access to 2 of those cards, Boba Fett, Fett's Fire Spray, and then Cunning. So it has access to a lot of the best cards in the game. So that's the list. So let's talk about the base. Why play the 30 life base instead of Jeddah City? Because 1, you get the Cunning, right? So you're not gonna be in a different color. 2, +5 life against aggro and +5 life against the mirror. It is crazy how you can win games, and they were 1 action away from killing you because of extra life at the start of the game compared to 25 life bases. You win, and it lets you focus on playing the cards instead of worrying about how your base interacts with the board. You can just focus on tapping stuff and playing multiple cards a turn with Boba's ability, and so you can take the initiative more. A lot of times these bases force you to lose the initiative by using that base action. And so I think by just focusing on taking the initiative and being aggressive and pivoting into aggression or tempo, you can win, and you can choose how you want to play this deck. So Boba Fett obviously is the leader here. He's one of the fastest leaders in the game behind Sabine. Sabine comes out 1 turn earlier. He combos with the events in the deck. This is crazy. On turn 4, you can play a Cunning, then play Boba, and play another Cunning after you attack with Boba. You can play 2 Cunnings on turn 4, the best event in the game. Arguably the best 4-cost event in the game. That is absolutely bonkers. I've done it. It feels like you're cheating. It allows you to dump your hand, just Boba untap stuff, and it's a great color combo. It's very fun to play. I love playing this deck. It's like a fun element. It's almost like you're playing blue and Magic the Gathering, because you can bounce stuff, you can tap it down, you can say nope. And even though there's no stack in this game, it does feel like I'm just like rejecting everything and saying nope to what they're doing. Even though you might still lose the game because eventually they're going to catch up, it's still very, very fun to play, and that's ultimately why I like this deck the most. And I think it's possibly a tier 1 deck. So here, here's the sideboard. You have another Waylay against Sabine decks. You have a copy of Cell Block Guard for aggro decks and Sabine. You have 2 copies or 2 or 3 copies of Asteroid Sanctuary. I forget, because the sideboard is honestly changing every day for me. It does give a shield token to most of your early units, which is really nice, and it can exhaust a key unit. Frontier ATRT, kind of weird, but this deck does need more ambush, and ambush is very good. This is the only other card I would consider playing, and it does come down at 4, so that does feel good. It's a 3/5, so it does kill most 3 toughness things, and it lives, which is a very strong value proposition. I'm kind of mad on this card right now. It only gets ambush if you control another vehicle unit, so that is highly relevant. So I don't know how I feel about this card, but I was beat by Poem, and he played this in his main deck, and he beat me. So I'm not sure how I feel about this card. Next is Change of Heart. This is three copies against Iden control and against Boba mid-range control. Steal your good stuff and win, right? If I have a big board and they play Vader, steal the Vader on the next turn, take initiative, and then swing out for the victory. Feels very, very strong. Kind of weird, but you can steal their Fett's Fire Spray, and if you have a Fett's Fire Spray, because they're both unique, you have to sacrifice one. You can choose to sacrifice theirs, and so then it goes back into their discard pile. My kids are crying playing games right now. So this is the Cunning aggro deck. Very, very fun. Link in the description for you all to check it out. Definitely give me a like. Let me know what you think about this deck and what your favorite part of it was. we'll do that, sweetie. They're playing Smash Bros. And so give me a subscribe if you guys like these deck reviews. They have been very fun to make, and it just helps me learn and master the game. Thank you.